So from now on, we're gonna speak in English, and
In
this is the
English.
dea-ghuí. Yes, in English. And I have a guess, as always. Who are you? Hello, Enrico.
Hello, I am Enrico. How are you
How are you
doing
doing?
today?
Good, good. Thank you. How are you doing?
Yeah, fine. I'm a little bit nervous because I have to speak English right now, and and my Latin American friends would say my English is not very good looking, but I hope you can understand me.
Great, perfect. So, where I know this person from, you are or were my German teacher, and I asked you if you're interested in being in a radio to be interviewed. And yeah, we decided to do this. So, this is the first time I hear you speaking English, and
Oh,
it's
you
very
hear me? Oh,
interesting,
that's the first time.
isn't it?
Yeah,
Because we always speak in German.
right, 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 right.
Yeah.
And yeah, so how do you like my English?
How do I like your English? I think it's amazing. It's perfect.
It's
It's great.
amazing.
Yeah, very impressive. I went to your. I was in a class in Japan probably for 6 months, I think, with my brother
Yeah,
when you were
yeah,
in
more or less.
Goethe Institute in Japan. And I've seen, well, obviously, I was in your class learning German. Well, I know kind of your method, and I was always impressed how you do teaching. Later on, I became a teacher myself. I don't teach German generally, sometimes, yes. I usually teach Japanese, but there are some things in common, so I wanted to ask you a few things for fun. In the class, what I noticed a lot of things, because I used to say I never, ever, ever want to become a teacher when I was in school, because it looked like the most boring job ever in the world. But seeing you I kind of changed my mind because you make it so interactive and do it creative. And different things that I noted in your class, it's a long time ago already, but you're good at making friendly atmosphere in the classroom, and also you always tell students to change the place they sit down in a class so that they can talk to new people, talk to each other. Well, generally, it's easier for us to be talking to each other and practicing the language. A lot of things in your method that I like about, but also want to learn from. Especially, I know you're okay with how cheeky I am in classes because you're worse. And yeah, so about the classes, I first wanted to talk about teaching method. You told me that you prefer group classes to private or individual courses.
Okay, first of all, let me say thank you for these nice words, for the compliments. Yeah, yeah, I really feel honored that I could impress you so much, and that yeah, my classes led you to become a teacher as well, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, because do you
that's actually
remember
yeah.
you asked me if I wanted to be a teacher? And at first I thought, hell no. But later on, I did become a teacher because, like, seeing that you don't have to be a specific style of teacher, you don't have to be following rules and then be scolding kids when they break the rules. You could be breaking the rules yourself. So I thought, it might be interesting.
Yeah, but it's much more interesting if my students break the rules from time to time, because this makes communication interesting, or
Yeah,
doesn't it?
yeah, yeah,
I
it
mean,
does.
if it's if everybody follows the rules and just it isn't interesting to
Hmm.
anybody.
So,
What was the question? I forgot the question. Sorry.
group classes, why is it better or easier for you to be teaching in a group?
Okay. Yeah, actually, that's right. I really enjoy teaching bigger groups of like 10 to 12, 14 people. The group should not be too big. For example, at the university, I have sometimes classes with 40 people. It could work, but it makes it quite difficult to deal with everybody. And if I cannot listen to everybody, but like 12 people are my sweet spot in the size of groups. For example, if you have a group of 12, I mean, not only my number is 12, it's also a very religious number, right? Even the Christians 12, right?
Not to say 13.
Yeah, yeah, right. But 12 is really good because you can divide 12 by 2, by
Uh,
3, by 4, by 6, and Do you know what I what I want to say with that? I mean, you can create many groups, and this gives us a flexibility to do different kinds of games, role plays, and you can change the partners. This makes actually the class interesting. I mean, if you always speak with the same person, I mean, especially in the beginners class, it's once you have introduced yourself, it's not very authentic to do it again and again and again,
Yeah.
right?
That's a
And it's
very
the same with the
creative
private.
point. I
Yeah,
think as a teacher, we all kind of tend to forget to try to mix the class so that different kinds of communication happens with different people. We usually sit in the same place, and I remember because right before I came to Hungary, I was in your course, and that was kind of
mm,
the last time I was in a classroom before coming to Hungary. And then in Hungary, I had clearly another language course going on. And then there we didn't even move as the classical classroom situation.
yeah,
So it you still could learn a language like that, but somehow it annoyed me so much that we're still always in the same seat. 8 people. It's not a massive classroom, but still we were in the same seat. We were not moving around. We still had the same person as a partner in a partner work. And coming out like from your classroom, I was like, oh my God, why do they do this?
but yeah, I understand, but you may not forget there's also kind of a recency bias, right? I
Yeah,
mean, because your first German class was my class, and though you were used to it, I think it's always the case, right? So
yeah, yeah,
the things you're used to it, you're gonna miss once it's different, right? But yeah, but maybe also you notice what the benefits of changing partners, right? I
yeah.
mean, not only for me, I mean for the students, and especially in Japan, I think it's very important. Japanese tend not to be that open and to start communication, to communicate with new people.
Hmm.
But if you change your partners, they have to do, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And and this is also good for the atmosphere in class because if they're always together with their friends or with the people there were at the same table the first day, um, they have problems to get in contact or to communicate with other people because they don't know them and they're afraid.
Hmm.
I used to learn Spanish many years ago, and for that, I went to Barcelona, took language classes. And in this class, when most of them were, Italian people. I think like we were a class of, I think, 10 people or something like this.
Hmm.
There was another German and an American, and the rest, the Italian people. And they are very communicated, right? They always chat and they don't care about anything about grammar, about words. And my Spanish teacher always said they speak Spagnolo, like a mixture of Italian and Spanish. And in this case, I think we don't need to change the partners because there will be a good atmosphere and they will do by themselves anyway. But in Japan, meh, once they come to class, I mean, I had it so many times in also at the Goethe Institute where I used to work. The first day, the first class, people don't say anything. It's super silent. Nobody's saying anything. You can you can hear falling down like a paperclip, you know?
Yeah, but I think
Yeah,
the
it's
Italian case is a little bit, not to say extreme, but it's big contrast. I think generally, not just in Japan, but from what I've experienced in Hungary or in Germany, it tends to be like that in the first class as well. So maybe, well, definitely in a different way than in Japan. But at the beginning, people don't really talk to each other as much. So as you said, it's
mhm.
really powerful to try to mix
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, it's an icebreaker. It's really an
Yeah.
icebreaker. Another thing in Japan, but maybe it's not an issue in Europe or in America, is all the social hierarchies, you know,
Hmm.
right? The hierarchy in society, like younger people respect older people, né? And people are sometimes not brave enough to say something because there is an older
Hmm.
person in this group or in the class, and they are not sure if they can start or if they should let them start.
Hmm.
Yeah, or Japanese are afraid of making mistakes. I mean, Italians don't care. The same like Latin Americans, like Brazilians or Mexicans, they don't care. They just speak, right? But Japanese, they want to confirm before they say something. And this is also a reason for creating groups. This is something I really had to learn in Japan. So another reason for changing partners is that they can learn from each other. If you are always together with the same people, one day everything is said, right?
Yeah, true.
Uh, yeah, and within the group, there's a kind of dynamic. There's always like a person who is a leader in the group, people who follow, people who are team players, other people who not a team player. Yeah, once you mix all the time, this hierarchies, these roles in the group will be broken all the time, and they have to find new hierarchies, new ways of dealing with each other, helping each other, communicating with each other. One person in one group could be the leader, in the other group could be a follower. The purpose of my class is communication for daily life, to being able to use a language in the country, for example, in Germany or like in German-speaking countries. In reality, you don't have a chance or don't have a choice to speak whom you speak to. You cannot choose. And you also have to speak with people you don't like, people you are not very familiar with. I try to simulate a little bit this kind of issue in class. I want to prepare my students to communicate,
It's
I
really
think.
interesting how you tell it because I did feel like there's certain kind of circle around me in school. Like you're not necessarily being conscious about it, but basically there's certain distance of people you talk to, and then if it's too far away, then you talk less to those people. And that's why, like, the person you're sitting with is the easiest to talk to. And if that person changes all the time, then so you don't feel nervous about saying anything in the classroom because you know all of them. But at the same time, you say group teaching is easier than private teaching. And the last time when we had a chat, for me, it was very interesting what you said because you told me that in a group, people are more motivated than in a private situation. In a group, like they are
Mm,
different people and they tend to do homeworks, which sometimes doesn't work
mm.
out in a private teaching occasion.
Right. I think it's kind of contra-intuitive, right?
Yeah,
It's something that people don't expect. People think private class, no, one-to-one class is the best for learning language
yeah,
because they book the teacher and the teacher can concentrate on, yeah, on the issues of this student, and it's the most effective and the fastest way to learn a language. My experience is completely different. 95% of the cases, group classes are much more effective
hmm,
when learning a language. Yeah, let me explain the reasons why I think like this. Yeah, if we should just create a situation if you have your private teacher. What do you expect from this teacher? You expect that the teacher is listening to you, is explaining everything to you, is correcting you, is answering your questions. Yeah. If you have a private teacher, you book this teacher, his or her time, and the teacher is there just for you. Means who is the boss of the class? It's you, right? You as a student, not a teacher. This should be the way. But my experience, this could end up in a disaster. If the student is the boss, the students also determines the pace of the class. The students determines who is speaking. Especially in Japan, mostly it ends up that the teacher is speaking the whole time, and you you cannot finish actually what you have planned. The students, they ask lots of questions. They often ask questions that don't really matter. Yeah, like grammatical problems that are too difficult for them to understand. It wouldn't make sense to explain to them, but they, yeah, expect you explaining it.
yeah. Another point you mentioned is about the homework, right? In a private courses, they're not necessarily
Right.
doing the homeworks.
that's the next thing. Yeah, because you are the teacher, there is nobody else. It's their class, and most of the people who take private classes, they're often whether they are busy, very busy, or because they don't have the time to take a regular class, a group class, or they are very disorganized.
Hmm.
So most of the students, they cancel classes, they postpone classes to other weekday or other time. This is also a problem that makes it difficult to follow a schedule, a plan. And now let's see how it worked. How does it work in the group class? In the group class is completely different. There is a certain time and day they have to come. They have to make time. And yeah, regarding the homework, they know, tomorrow is my class. I have to do my homework. If I don't do my homework, I would be the only one in class who didn't do the homework.
Hmm.
So there's also kind of pressure in a group to prepare for the class. Yeah. Another thing is in class, there's a schedule and the pace of the class is determined by the teacher's program. Means people have to follow. There is a kind of a line, a red line in class. You can plan much easier. In a private class, it depends on the person.
But
Yeah. Another thing is, yeah,
yeah,
sorry,
please, please.
if I, yeah. Another thing is, in a private class, the only one who can explain to the student is the teacher.
Yeah.
But the teacher is not always the best person to explain it. Sometimes it's much, much better if other students would explain it, maybe in their mother tongue. The way of thinking is different. German is my mother tongue, but my students' foreign language. For
Yeah.
me, things could be very clear and easy to understand, but maybe for students, it's very complicated. But if other students had the same problem, maybe in the homework or at home, and they found a way to understand or to use it, it might be better if they explained it to their colleagues than I do.
That's the
Yeah.
point, exactly the point I wanted to ask you, because it's sometimes difficult, especially in a group occasion where when you try to make them speak in the language they're learning, because if they already have the common language, let's say Japanese, then they don't necessarily start talking to in German with each other. But you kind of see it as constructive when they have another shared
Yeah. It,
language.
yeah. It depends on the situation. It depends on the situation and on the exercise or and the purpose actually. If if the purpose is that they understand something, for example, like a grammatical issue or something like this, if you go to another country and you learn the language over there, you use all the resources you have. You use all the knowledge you have. It's not like you say, I just use this foreign language. You speak now, you speak English, you speak Hungarian, you speak English, you speak Japanese. You use all these resources, right?
Yeah,
Why shouldn't my students,
yeah,
in this case, if they want to explain or to understand for example, a grammatical structure or how something works, or even sometimes cultural things, yeah.
yeah.
But in other
Interesting.
situations in class, I want them to speak German. I want them to use the foreign language. You remember, I'm a big fan of comparing homework in class.
Hmm.
And I know from my colleagues at university or universities that many of the teachers think this is a waste of time. And also my students often ask me why, for example, especially if they have paid for the class, like a Goethe Institute, they paid for the class and we use like 30 minutes or sometimes even 45 minutes
Hmm.
for comparing the homework. And some students ask me, why do we use this valuable time for correcting or comparing homework? My reply was always a different or various reasons for that. One reason is that's the only or almost the only authentic situation in class. Everything we do in class is like kind of role play because it's not authentic that Japanese speak German with each other. I mean, no Japanese would in daily life would speak German with another Japanese. Yeah. Um, if we play something like in situations in the restaurant, it's just theater. It's not a real situation. Yeah. But correcting homework or comparing homework, this is an authentic situation in class. It's something that really takes place in class, and it's a situation that is easy to deal with actually
Mhm.
because it's quite easy. You remember, it's very easy. We ask, is das richtig? Ne? Is this correct? Yes, this is correct. This is right. Ne? I have this solution. What do you think about it? Actually, it's quite simple. These are phrases you can use in daily life everywhere.
Yeah.
So this is one reason why I compare the homework. And another thing is I tell them, no, it's not waste of time because we actually save time because they did the homework at home. Normally, or actually, we have to do these exercises in class. And I think it's waste of time doing the exercises in class.
You also usually let them do the reading practices at home, right? Not really in a classroom as much.
It depends. It depends on the purpose of the reading
Hmm.
exercise. There are different types of reading. No, we have like this global reading, like the six W's, right? Who and where and
Hmm.
when and why and what else?
When, where, who,
The
what, why, how, these.
yeah, this is actually to get an idea what kind of text this is, what is the topic of the text, who are the main person in this situation. This is a kind of global reading. We have like this selective reading. Selective reading is we are looking for information. Yeah, for example, if you have a newspaper and you want to know how would be the weather tomorrow in where are you now? In
In a town where I am,
where
in Galway, you mean?
Galway.
Galway.
Yeah,
You need to
yeah. And you
Google it
want to
later.
know?
Very beautiful.
Yeah. Okay, okay. And you want to know the weather forecast for Galway of tomorrow? What do you do? Do you read the whole newspaper? No, nobody would do, right? Nobody would start reading the newspaper from the beginning until the end. You are looking for for this information. Yeah, and actually, I don't know how much, but I think maybe 80, 90% in daily life is just global reading. What is the topic? What kind of text is this? What is the situation? Now, coming back to your question, when do I let them do it at home and when do I do it in class? For example, for global reading, doing it in class is much more attractive than letting them doing it at home. The
Mhm.
reason, what happens if they do it at home? People who are not used to it, who don't understand the way of reading texts, they would read a text starting translating everything with a dictionary.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is completely the opposite what I want them to do. Yeah, this is completely opposite what they would do in reality. Yeah, nobody would start reading a newspaper translating every word from the beginning until the end. Nobody would do that. Even in your mother tongue, especially Japanese. I mean, they have these kanjis, these Chinese characters. I'm sure that most of the people don't understand all the kanjis, every kanji in
No,
the
no.
newspaper. Yeah. What do they do? Do they translate everything? Do they look up every kanji? No, they wouldn't. They would just go on reading, or they would look for the information, even if they don't understand all the kanjis. But if they do this at home, I cannot see what they're doing. And the problem is that they maybe won't achieve the goal what actually this exercise is aimed to. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That's why I try to also to do reading in class. But if the exercise is to understand it more in detail, it could make sense to do it at home because
Mhm.
they have more time at home. And of course, if they need more detailed information, of course, they have to translate some words, maybe some sentences. And another thing is, the level of the reading skills and the level of the students are different. If you do everything in class, it could happen that, or it could happen, it happens that The students who are better in reading are already done with the exercise, and others haven't even started.
Hmm.
Yeah. And this makes it kind of difficult sometimes in class because me as a teacher, I have to decide how long do I let them read the
Yeah.
text. Yeah, that's why I try to separate a little bit, to put it in two parts. For example, I start in class the global reading. For example, first, please um, read the text, yeah, but read it quickly. Don't read every word. Don't use a dictionary. No? The purpose of reading this text now is to understand the situation, what kind of text it is, who are the people, what is the situation in this text, and maybe one or two selective reading exercises, but more detailed questions I let them do at home.
Hmm.
Or if the text is very long, for example, like one page or two, it depends on the class, of course, then it would make sense to let them do it at home because it would take too much time in class to read
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
also in a classroom situation, I'm terrible at reading as well, especially when you have to find specific information, because I can't really focus when people are talking. I'm more into talking than reading. So if I have the chance to be chatting away
Yeah,
with
yeah,
people, it's easier, and I won't be able to concentrate too much on reading. But also,
right,
you
right.
have the similar kind of categorization or system for listening as well, right? There's a global
Yes, yes, you're saying,
listening
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
selective listening.
The selective and the detailed listening. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. For
because
example, it depends also on the type of the text of the listening text or of the reading text. An easy example, for example, like the weather forecast.
mhm.
That's a typical global and selective reading. Nobody would read all the weather forecasts for all the cities in Ireland. But there are other texts you really have to read it carefully. For example, like a contract. If you buy a car, for example, or if you buy a house,
Mhm.
you better read everything. Or if you start a new job and you read your working contract, your labor contract, you better read everything and you understand what is in the contract. Or if you read a manual, how to use something, yeah, you have to. Or if you read a novel, yeah, if you read a novel, nobody would start in the middle of the novel, right? Okay, I know some people who start in the end because they want to know the end before they have started. But normally, yeah, in general, I think people start from the beginning and
Yeah.
they read page by page. Yeah, in this case, it's a detailed reading. Yeah, but and this is the same also with listening. Yeah, with listening. For
Yeah.
example, if you watch a movie or listen to a podcast, you have to listen everything, right?
Mm.
And
Yeah.
you cannot jump to minute 5 or to minute 20. You could, of course, but you wouldn't because you have to follow, right?
Yeah.
But again, it depends on the type of text and also for listening. If you're at the train station, or well, I mean, okay, airport is also in English, but if you're at a train station in Germany or wherever, and you learn German, you don't listen to everything. You want to know when your train is leaving. If you want to go to Hamburg, you don't care when the train is leaving to Munich or if the train to Frankfurt is delayed.
I
Yeah, you
mean,
want to know.
you could be interested how delayed it could get in Germany. Like it could be, oh my gosh, 2 hours. But yeah, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. Ne? So in this case, this is the kind of first is global hearing or listening again. Ne? If you globally you listen, is this announcement important for me or not? Is it just like advertisement? Yeah, please come to our second floor. We have a great restaurant over there, and we have a happy hour. I mean, it's not relevant for you, right?
Yeah.
But if it's about delays of trains, you listen. Okay, now it's important. And the next step is is it an information about my train or not?
Hmm.
Yeah. But you won't listen to everything in detail. You are listening just to the information regarding your train. If you watch a movie, it's different. Yeah. the movie, you start listening from the beginning until the end.
Got kind of stuck at the beginning when I started teaching, and I asked you about for that
Mm.
piece of advice about it as well. But the first time I started teaching, I had a bit of classroom, not for a really long period, but there I usually kind of thought that global listening is more important in urgent situations, especially because when you try to train yourself into understanding the context and not really trying to catch everything, and you get used to it, maybe you get more like better exposure, better understanding for the language.
Yeah.
I used to do way more global listening based teaching in a classroom when we had listening. But the other teachers in a language school told me that I should first explain all the words that they might not know and then start with these so that they will be able to understand what is going on. Maybe it also depends slightly on the level. So maybe if it's, say, A2, B1 level and the text is heavy, then it does make sense to be explaining all the words, phrases that might be new or that might be harder to understand. But if it's not really the case that the text might be too complicated, then I still, at least at that time, I preferred to not to explain anything at the beginning and then get them listening once or twice. And then after that, I would ask my students, so what was it about? What did you catch?
This is very, very, very important to prepare your students in class.
Yeah.
I mean, communication never ever happens without a situation. It's always embedded in a situation. So, and that's why it's important in class to prepare your students. Mostly you can get it by the background or by the topic. Yeah, for example, if the topic is a restaurant, for example, then of course you can expect a situation in a restaurant. People are talking, and you can hear the dishes, like noise of the dishes, and or music in a restaurant. You can guess what the situation is, but it wouldn't make any sense to just play a text and they don't know any words they
Mm-hmm.
use in this situation. Yeah, for example, if you want them to understand a conversation in a restaurant, they should at least know some words you use in a restaurant. Yeah,
Yeah.
they should know maybe some names of the dishes. They should know what the waiter could say, what the guest could say. If they don't, yeah, my part in this class is to prepare them, to give them the vocabularies, the phrases that they are able, at least able to understand. It depends, as you said, on the level, of course, on the topic. For example, if you have a situation in a hospital, yeah, if I don't prepare my students with the words I need in a hospital, they wouldn't understand. Or like in a bank. In the banks, there's so many specific vocabularies you need or phrases. The problem of listening is first, mostly, not always, but mostly you hear just once. I mean, in reality, of course, if you have a dialogue, you can ask again, no, could you repeat, please, or something like this. But if you are in a train station, you cannot say, oh, sorry, could you tell me, could you say it again? I didn't get it. You can't say this, right? That's one problem. And another problem is a really big problem is you only understand words you know. You don't understand unknown words. That's why people always think the speed no? Speed of speaking is important. Actually, I speak quite quickly, right? Even
Yes,
in the beginner's
that's
class.
also what I wanted to talk about. For me it was really interesting at the beginning because you don't seem to slow the speed of your speech down just because
I
it's
don't.
A1
No.
class, A2 class. You speak the natural
Yeah,
way as always.
yeah, because I try to create an authentic atmosphere.
Mm.
And once the people go to Germany, people don't speak slower extra for them, or they don't use easier words. I mean, they don't even know what are easy and difficult words. I mean, if you're not a teacher, you don't know what kind of vocabularies are difficult and which are easy. No? This is one reason why I don't, and because I think it's not the speed itself. The speed is not a problem. Do you know that you know Deutsche Welle? Deutsche Welle
Yeah,
is
news channel.
the German. I think it's public owned radio station. But Deutsche Welle, maybe you can explain. I don't know. Anyway, it's like little bit like BBC in Britain, and they have also programs or like programs for people who learn German as a foreign language. And they have one category. It's called, how is it called in English? Slowly spoken news.
Hmm.
The problem is people listen to this slowly spoken news. It's really like London, Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced today in this speed, right?
Yeah.
But the students don't understand it either.
Mm.
Why don't they understand it? The problem is they don't know the vocabularies because the language of news they use in newspapers or in news in radio or in TV is a different language. It's not a spoken language.
Hmm.
It's not the language you use in daily conversation. They're very specific words and specific phrases, and of course, also the topic is could be quite difficult. If you are not familiar with political issues,
Yeah.
you may struggle even with the topic, even in your mother tongue, it would be difficult. In general, it's not the speed, it's more the lack of vocabularies and phrases.
Hmm.
Did you know that, for example, I used to work for the Goethe Institute. Yeah, the Goethe Institute, like British Council in Britain, right?
Of
They
Germany.
have, yeah, of Germany, right? Yeah, and we also have like the German proficiency tests,
Yeah.
and we have these four skills like reading, listening, speaking, and writing. People think, the most difficult part is speaking or writing. No, some people say the productive skills. Yeah, even though product is no, it's a strange word, but like the skills I mean, you have to produce something, you have to be productive, right? You have to create something. And especially Japanese, they are not good at speaking and oral communication. They're better in grammar and reading and so. But the fact is that most people fail with the reading part. And it's kind of surprising because people think because why reading? Japanese are really good at memorizing words and using grammar. And why don't they pass the reading part? Because it's a lack of vocabularies and phrases.
Hmm.
Yeah, if you speak, you use your own words. You use the words you already know. Yeah. But with a text, like an article or with a listening text, you cannot decide which words they use. If they use words you don't know, you don't get it because you don't understand. You don't understand words you don't know. And this is the main problem. It's not the speed itself. It's more a lack of vocabularies and sometimes also structures. And another thing, especially with listening, is another big problem is the pronunciation. This is something that people underestimate. People think, yeah, pronunciation, that's something, yeah, it's not so important. And more important is that you know the grammar and the words. Uh, I think, yeah, to know the words is important, but if you don't know the correct pronunciation, you also don't get the words. I remember I used to live together with a host family during my study, and my host parents, it was in Germany, they were American missionaries
Hmm.
living in Germany. He was a Canadian and she was a US American. And she told me an interesting story. She always went to a bakery. And in Germany, we have many different kinds of bread, right? Like we
I
have
know.
like I don't know what's in English, but like Mischbrot and
Mhm.
and sometimes like Müsli Brot and different kinds of bread, and they all had a jogging bread. It called this bread was a kind of healthy
Jogging
style
bread.
bread, like with jogging bread.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and she went to the bakery and says, "Yeah, hello, yeah. I go for the jogging bread, a jogging board." She said, "Ne? I go for the jogging board." And the shop assistant, she was, what do you want? "Ah, yeah, the jogging board." And what? We don't have this kind of broad. What do you? Yeah, over there. Look over there. This jogging broad. She pronounced this word jogging like an American, as
Ah, okay.
like American do. But the Germans, they don't. They say jogging board. Yeah, and she said jogging board. And the sub assistant, yeah, she didn't understand. Of course she knew jogging. They both knew the vocabulary, but because she didn't know the right pronunciation, she didn't recognize the word. And this is also a big problem for many of my students, because they memorize the words. Maybe they know so many words, but with listening comprehension, they don't get it because they don't know the right pronunciation.
Hmm.
Yeah, for example, in Japanese, in Japanese, many students or many people they speak like katakana, German or katakana English.
Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah, table for Japanese is table.
Hmm.
Yeah, or McDonald's is McDonaldo. Yeah, but if you said to a Japanese, tomorrow I go to McDonald's, some of them may not understand
Yeah.
because they just know McDonaldo.
But I think
Yeah,
it's
even
also
though they
the
both know. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's also the
Sorry.
other way around. One way is you speaking and they not understanding, and also you need to get used to how it's pronounced because you also want to understand the other people pronouncing a certain way. Because that happens in my classroom a lot when I'm teaching Japanese. When I say some katakana words, let's say kontakto renzu, which means
Mhm.
contact lens,
Yeah,
but
contact lens.
people really don't understand it because it sounds completely different. And even on B2 level students, they're like, what did you just say? I don't even know the word. And then I say
Right, right,
kontakto
right.
renzu 10 times, still don't understand it. And then say, okay, I'll say it in English and then with different pronunciation. And then they all of a sudden understand it.
Yeah, because it's a different word actually. Of course, it comes from English, right? Contact lens, and it's contacto lens. But they don't, if you memorize contacto lens, you don't memorize contact lens. But this is super important. That's you have to know the right pronunciation. If you don't know the right pronunciation, you don't understand, or don't recognize a word you already know.
Mm.
That's why I think it's very important that also the teachers in class they use the proper German, normal, natural German. I know some teachers they speak like they try to emphasize endings or something like this to make sure that the students understand. But I think it's not a good idea to do that because this is not the way that people speak in the country. I mean,
Hmm.
nobody, but maybe some would do if they see, a foreigner, maybe it's like, ne, Hallo, bitte hören Sie. Ne?
Yeah.
Yeah, but normally people won't do that. And if the teacher speaks all the time like this, it's not natural language. It's not a language that people use. I know in the first time, the first classes, people could be shocked because they feel they don't understand anything. But I'm sure once they have finished my class, they they wouldn't have such a hard time in Germany once they are there. If I speak a kind of artificial, like a student-oriented, ending emphasized German, I'm not sure if they would understand German speaking.
Yeah,
So
sure.
And what I do in the first classes because I know it could be a kind of shock. You maybe you may remember. I also try to use like Anglo, how to say, Anglicism words,
Uh-huh.
like words we use in German, which are actually not very German. For example, for comparing the homework for, ne? In German, I would say, ne? Bitte vergleichen Sie die Hausaufgaben. Yeah, bitte vergleichen Sie die Hausaufgaben. Vergleichen means compare, or in German we could also say checken Sie, ne?
Yeah.
Check-in is a word from English, like check, ne? Or I could ask, or could say, bitte arbeiten Sie in einer Gruppe, ne? Please work in a group. Maybe they would understand Gruppe because it's similar to English if they knew some English. But if I say, bitte machen Sie Teamwork, they would understand.
That's
Huh?
what I also
And if
came
I,
to
yeah,
realize. Yeah, because
yeah. So in the beginning, yeah,
when you try to use,
yeah.
I
Go
always try
ahead.
to keep as much as possible in Japanese, but also it's difficult for them to understand sometimes. And I was thinking for a long while,
Mm.
what should I do? Should I just slow down? Should I use different vocabulary? Should I be reading the textbook myself so that I know better about what kind of words they already have? But then it's actually
Mm.
easier to be using katakana words where, like, the phrases are way easier to understand because it's not Japanese, it's originating from in English or any other languages. That way,
Yeah,
you don't need to understand the whole grammatical structure, but you could pick up one or two words in the sentence, and then that kind of
right.
already makes sense.
In my case with German, many of the students they have learned English. They know English from school, or even they use it for work or at university. So I can use this resource.
Hmm.
For them, it's not new. You know what I mean? So
We
that's why I think
actually
this.
have to
Yeah,
finish it here now, unfortunately. But yeah, language learning, it's always a struggle to figure out one way or another to teach.
yeah,
But it is an interesting journey, and I can always ask you about your method and so on. So thank you so
yeah,
much
sure.
for the show, for the
Yeah, you're
chat
welcome.
today.
And may I say something
Yeah.
in the end, because I promised to my lovely niece to say hello to her because
Hallo, Lia.
she wanted. So, Celia, ne? Viele, viele, viele Grüße.
Viele Grüße, danke fürs Zuhören. Ich würde auch
Genau,
absolut die Lieder, die Songs spielen.
because I don't know, but in Germany, people like normal people who are on radio, they always want to greet somebody. So it's like, yeah, greetings to my mom who's listening now, and
Yeah.
it's her birthday tomorrow or something like this. And I say, yeah, Celia, my dear.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep it in the radio broadcast. It's gonna be in 2 weeks' time, and yeah,
mhm,
until then, I will have to edit and do everything so that it fits in the time schedule. But thank you so much,
yeah.
and
No, thank you
we'll see
for
you next time.
inviting me.
It was very
Yeah,
interesting. So thank you to the listeners as well, and we'll see each other in 2 weeks' time, Sloan.